3 months ago, I got an email saying, Clem, we love the channel. Will you test our boots? Love, LUKS. That's not a name that I've ever heard before. So a really quick Google search and I found out LUKS is a very small family-run company selling handmade minimalist shoes from their workshop in the Czech Republic. And together that family makes these fully by hand, making them the very first barefoot shoe that I've been properly excited about for a little while. Don't make it weird. In this video, I'm gonna test them out and I'm gonna see if they deliver so that you don't have to. Plus, I'm then gonna see how they stack up against their competition from the big boys. But let's kick it all off by having a look at what makes the design of this shoe, in my opinion, so very special. Starting off with how they look. Now, I might not be the most fashionable person in history, but this very nice, warm, almost timeless combination of nubuck leather with this lovely contrast stitching on the sides and this counter contrast sole. I just think it's very clean, it's very timeless, and it looks great with jeans, trousers, anything smart casual. And while yes, I will admit they do look a little bit wide, that's just because of how uncompromising LUKS have been with their vision of being truly barefoot. And while I'll talk about that a little bit more later on in this video, I would love to hear what you think about the width of these just off the bat down in the comments. That simplicity in this design also bodes really well for getting a lot of tactile feedback through the floor while you're walking, meaning that you can really feel the surface that you're on underfoot. That's something that got me absolutely hooked on barefoot shoes when I started wearing them 7 or 8 years ago, and I'm very passionate about that being a key point of barefoot shoe design now. And in my opinion, I think a lot of companies have gotten very lax with that. In fact, I'd probably go as far as saying that these, the LUKS, are some of the thinnest and definitely most supple shoes that I've ever owned. In fact, they are on a par with these, which if you don't know are the Vivo Barefoot Plumas Light, the class leaders at the moment. Not just in weight, these are 247 grams compared to the Plumas Light's 234 grams, but also the amount of flexibility and suppleness that's in the shoe itself. Both of these shoes have got the same 4mm sole, although the tread pattern is slightly different, but this 1mm nubuck leather is just so supple. And if I was to do a side-by-side comparison, resting a weight on them, you could see just how closely matched these are. The second big design choice is a pillar LUKS holds themselves to, which I think is very, very smart, and that is customization. Now, I'll absolutely be the first to admit I have got very narrow feet, but every time I do a shoe review, without fail, there is someone in the comments saying these are not wide enough for me, and literally every barefoot shoe company is guilty of that. Vivo Barefoot has even gone as far as launching a 3D scan to print project called Vivo Biome, which is where they scan your feet and then 3D print shoes for you, just like these, which are entirely 3D printed. I do think that it is a really cool project and I really hope they get to the point of it being mainstream, but it is also a very expensive way of trying to get back to more artisanal made-to-measure style that LUKS has very intelligently built into their entire business model and uses to make things like this. It's nubuck or nappa leather, depending on the model, measured, cut, stitched, and finished expertly by hand to your foot. In fact, after I placed my order for these shoes, I got an email from Vaclav Jr. at LUKS asking for some measurements so they could customize the fit even more. And as you would expect, they absolutely nailed it. I have a really consistent thumb's distance gap around my entire toe box, which normally I just don't get. So as far as fit and as far as feel goes, these are the all-out winners. And just for fun, you can see compared to a normal barefoot shoe like this one from Fieldgrounds that I thought fit really well, the width is just wildly different. Now, a little bit of a drawback with that width is that it does challenge the aesthetic of what people expect from a shoe a little bit. Now, personally, I really don't mind that. I certainly don't think that these look clownish, in my opinion. So I did purposefully choose to go for a wider fit to maximize the toe box. But if you do think they look clownish, you can customize the fit to be a little bit snugger. In fact, according to the website, They can take that customization process to a level that I have never seen before, with things like different shoe lengths, if you've got one foot that's longer than the other, higher instep, extra or less width, thicker soles, calf fitment on their winter boots. It's a really long list. It's quite impressive actually, and well worth checking out. But anyway, I'm gonna go and drag these behind my scooter for 5 minutes, and that's because as much as I love these shoes, I was not sent them to cherish, I was sent them to test. So that's what I've got to go and do.
Hours later.
After about 5 minutes of being dragged down the road, the results are kind of what you would expect. The rubber sole is showing very minimal sign of wear. The nubuck leather, there are a couple of scuffs on it, but I would imagine they'd buff out, and it does add to the character. The only part of the shoe that's really showing any signs of distress is this piping just around where the sole meets the shoe. And the exposed stitching on that is starting to fray in some cases. But for everyday use, that section of the shoe, it's not a big high impact area. So unless you plan on doing what I did and dragging that shoe along the floor behind a bike, I think you're going to be absolutely fine. But it does give me a really good opportunity to point out this clause on the website that makes this small family brand really stand out. That attitude of caring, not just about the quality of their product, but also for their customers. That's something that I find is so rare nowadays. And it's a really big part of what makes this brand feel so human, which makes comparing this to something like the similarly styled Vivo Barefoot Gobi LUKS incredibly difficult. The premise is the same. The style is incredibly similar, as is the price point, both sitting around £180 or $210 US. But without trying to be funny, these have got real soul. You can feel the care and the attention that went into selecting the materials. You can feel the quality, you can feel the difference in fit and customization, making them, for me at the very least, the obvious choice. I'd love to hear what you think about them in the comments down below this video, but as always, I hope this review's been helpful. Thank you so much for watching. I look forward to seeing you again very soon.